wow, who knew that all it would take to get me back in front of a camera slash actually editing things, because I may or may not have a couple things filmed but not edited, would be the adaptation of one of my favorite books into a movie. Super easy. Why didn't we do that before? Anyway, hello lovely people, I'm Nicole, and today I want to talk about To All the Boys I've Loved Before, the movie adaptation, which is now on Netflix. It was posted on August 17th at midnight. Yes, I stayed up and watched it, and yes, I live tweeted it, and yes, it was amazing, and yes, it was definitely worth it, even though I had to work the next day. I love this movie, and I want to talk about it because I want you to watch it and love it too, because it's amazing. Also, I just want to talk to people about it because I've been like reblogging nothing but gift sets from it on Tumblr like all day, and I need to talk to someone about it. So the first part of this review is going to be spoiler free, so if you have not seen the movie yet, don't worry. And then later on, I'm going to warn you before I start getting into details that could be considered spoilery, and by could be, I mean are definitely considered spoilery. Non-spoilery thoughts, it was great, and I adored it, and it was super cute, and all of the casting was so perfect and spot on, and I was kind of nervous about Peter Kay because Peter Kay is a tricky character, and I think that Noah Centineo, pronunciation is hard, did a phenomenal job with him. I instantly fell in love with him. Lana Condor as Laura Jean was amazing, and she had the perfect balance of good comedic timing and being shy, but not just being like, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone, I'm so awkward and shy. She was still like funny and clever, but she felt relatable kind of shy, not like a caricature of like a shy introverted person, which I loved, and it was adorable, and it felt very true to the Laura Jean I love from the books. Her sisters, oh my goodness, were perfect. So I just reread the book, and oh my gosh, I forgot how much I adore Kitty Covey. And Anna Cathcart's Kitty was spot on. So funny, so clever. I will say there were a couple little things that were kind of different about Kitty from the book that I'll get more into in the spoilery section that I really actually kind of like. I also think that Janelle Parrish did a phenomenal job as Margot. Margot, I think, is another character that's kind of hard to nail because she has to have this big sister dynamic with Kitty and Laura Jean, and then balancing that and that kind of playfulness with the serious, studious Margot, that she's not really like a nerd stereotype, but she is kind of serious and she has her shit together. I think that Janelle Parrish did a great job with that. Overall, the sibling dynamic I think was so good. I have an older sister, and there are a lot of things about the dynamic between Laura Jean and Margot in this movie that reminded me so much of my relationship with my sister. Sibling dynamics for some reason are so difficult and rare to get right in pop culture. I don't know why, but like, this movie and Thor Ragnarok are the two recently that have done so good with it. When it comes to the rest of the supporting cast, I thought they were really good. The one that I had concerns about was Jen. She at times felt a little cartoon villain, mean girl-y, but I also don't know how I would have fixed that, because I think she felt a little like that in the book too. She's just not a super sympathetic character, and we're never really given a reason to see her as a sympathetic character. But the two characters that did impress me were Chris and Lucas, both of whom I was kind of like about in the book. I mean, Lucas wasn't really there enough to make that much of an impression, and Chris was kind of just a mess in the book. Like an endearing kind of mess, but kind of a mess. But both of their actors did such a good job with the comedy of those characters and with being good supportive friends to Laura Jean while keeping in the spirit of the characters from the book. Overall, I think the balance of comedy and romance was perfect. They did a really good job of going back and forth between the really heartwarming family things, the super cute growing feelings between Laura Jean and Peter, and then the sort of main climax of the conflict was appropriately dramatic and sad and heartfelt, and it just really made you feel for the characters. There were definitely a couple times where I was frustrated with the lack of communication, but that's also an issue that's going on in the book, and I kind of get it from a standpoint of, you know, they're teenagers and emotions are high when you're a teenager, and so it's easy to let emotions kind of get in the way of logic. I will say there are definitely a few things that change from the book, but all the changes that they had, which I will go more into again in the spoilery section, I understand why they made them. And while I'm sad about a few of them, I'm not upset about it. A movie can only be so long, it can only handle so many plot points, and I think that they did a really good job of honing in on what the important things were, and of choosing a few little references from the book that even if they weren't able to spend as much time on that particular thing that the book did, they still kind of gave tribute to it, which I really loved. So I think that's about it for the non-spoilery section, so if you have not watched the movie, go watch it now because it's amazing, or if you just don't care about spoilers, then please stay, enjoy. So this is your official warning. If you don't want to be spoiled, leave right now because spoilers are happening. So the first thing I want to talk about is Kitty, because as I said earlier, they changed something about Kitty from the book that made kind of an interesting difference in her characterization, and that is in the book when Kitty sends out the letters, it's an act done out of anger. She and Lara Jean had been fighting, and so she stuck into her room and sent out the letters to kind of get revenge on Lara Jean. In the movie, it's because she's trying to help Lara Jean, like, be social, and she thinks that sending out the letters will help her get a boyfriend. I think what it does is it makes Kitty seem more mature in not a super straightforward way, but it's less of a she's a little kid who was acting out and more of a she was misguided because she's young, but she was genuinely trying to help her sister. It makes her a little bit more of a kind of mischievous, almost like a Puck, like Midsummer Night's Dream kind of a Puck figure. I don't know why that comparison like popped into my head, but for some reason it makes sense to me. She's smarter than we give her credit for. You also see a little glimpse of that right after the ski trip. She and her dad are playing chess, and she, like, without even blinking, like, checkmates him. And it's kind of, it's interesting. I kind of like it. I just, in general, I think the way Anna Cathcart played Kitty was really, really spot on. The other character whose actions they changed from the books in a way that kind of changes his character is Josh. And I didn't talk about Josh in the non-spoilery section, mainly because most of my thoughts on Josh and like the way that they portrayed Josh are spoilery. The biggest thing that they changed, I think, was he didn't kiss Lara Jean. In the books, he kisses her, and that's what Margot finds out about, and that's why Margot gets pissed. And I think that removing that kiss does a couple things. First of all, it allows Margot to forgive Lara Jean easier, and it also makes Josh less of a horrible person, because in the books, it's really easy to hate him. I also think that there was more of an emphasis on Lara Jean and Josh's friendship than there was in the books. I mean, upon my reread this week, I definitely saw more of the friendship than I remembered originally reading it, but I think there was even more of it, pointing out that they were friends before Josh and Margot started dating, and they're the exact same distance apart age-wise that Josh is with Margot. There was also the moment when Josh finally gets to talk to her about the letter for the first time that I think was a really sympathetic moment for Josh, which there were not a lot of in the book. From Josh's point of view, in that moment, his girlfriend dumps him, and then his best friend out of nowhere sends him this mysterious love letter, starts dating another guy, and is avoiding him. And when he finally gets her to talk to him, you know, he's frustrated and he's scared because he thinks that he's losing the two most important people in his life. And she does not respond by giving any real kind of explanation. Add on top of that he already isn't a huge fan of Peter just because they have kind of clashing personalities. And yeah, I felt bad for him in that moment. Granted, later on he keeps being kind of a jerk about Peter and not a super supportive friend. As for the other things they changed, the three scenes from the book that I was kind of missing in the movie were, first of all, the antiquing scene where Lara Jean and Peter go to an estate sale to buy furniture for Peter's mom's antique shop. It's a really cute scene in the book and a great bonding moment for the two of them, but I think there's enough of that in the movie that we didn't really need it, as fun as it is. The other two were the baking scene got cut short. In the book, they actually baked together, which I think was super, super cute, and that's one that I think, you know, you could have done a little bit of it. It wouldn't have taken that much extra time, and it's not like you would have had to do anything extra other than add in a few lines, like a couple shots of them, I don't know, throwing flour at each other or something. It would have been cute. And then the third scene, and this is the one that, like, I genuinely wish they'd kept it because it was a really good scene in the book, and that is at one point Peter's dropping Lara Jean off. She forgets her bag in his car. She starts talking to Josh outside their houses, and when Peter comes back to give her her purse, he kisses Lara Jean, trying to make Josh jealous. And it's a really, really cute scene, and it's kind of an obvious thing that, like, Peter's using Josh as an excuse to kiss Lara Jean. And I'm not really sure why they cut it, but I kind of missed it. That's the one that I'm disappointed about. I mean, again, I think it worked without it. I just missed it and it made me sad. But the things that they added were great. The scene with Laura Jean and her dad at the cafe was so good and heartwarming and beautiful, and I love that we got that moment because we get that kind of feeling of her with her dad in little bits and pieces throughout the book, but it was nice to have a scene that's just the two of them sitting down, hanging out, and talking about feelings. And the other thing is the scenes with Lucas, which were great. They were kind of scattered throughout, but there was a little bit at the party. The big one was at the ski trip. So good. He was just so endearing. I think it was a nice way to get Laura Jean to be able to talk through her feelings, and it was an easy narrative way to work through that I like him but I don't know if he likes me and I don't want to act on it because I'm scared thing. So like narratively it made sense and it was cute and funny and it was just great and I loved it. Overall, as you can clearly tell, I absolutely adored this movie. I just want to keep rewatching it over and over and over again. But it just captured everything I loved about the book. The chemistry between Laura Jean and Peter was adorable. In general, Peter was just adorable. There were a few little moments. There were just kind of little things that weren't really emphasized or made a big deal of. Things like Peter drinking kombucha at a party was adorable, and they did make like a little bit of a joke about it, but like he could have been drinking soda. I love that he was just drinking kombucha. It was cute. And then a little kind of blink and you miss it moment was when he, Laura Jean, and Kitty are watching 16 Candles and he starts to joke around with Kitty and they start to pillow fight. He grabs the popcorn from the couch and like moves it onto the floor. I don't know why, but both times I watched it, that caught my eye. Such a little random thing, but it's so thoughtful, and it's little details like that that I think really pull together a character. I just in general loved this movie, and I hope you guys did too. Please, let's talk about it in the comments, and I'll go reread the rest of the series. Oh, speaking of rest of the series, mid-credit scene, which like set up a potential sequel. Please, Netflix, please give us P.S. I love you and Always and Forever Laura Jean, because that would be great, and dear God, I want more. Anyway, that's it from me tonight. Like I said, tell me what you thought in the comments below. I love you, and I will see you later. Bye!